Sometimes justice isn't just about the law. It's about understanding the person standing in front of you, where they came from, what they've survived, and what they need to move forward. Let me tell you about a morning when I heard an accent that made me ask one simple question. And that question revealed a story of survival so powerful that it changed everything about how I handled her case. Her name was Layla Ahmadi, 29 years old. No criminal record in the United States, but she was here facing 4 separate traffic violations committed over the past 6 weeks. The charges were serious. Layla Ahmadi, failure to stop at stop sign, illegal lane change, driving without headlights after dark, failure to yield to emergency vehicle. 4 violations, 4 separate incidents, 4 different officers. That pattern suggested either complete disregard for traffic laws or something else entirely. Detective Morrison had compiled the reports. Each one noted the same thing. Subject was cooperative, but seemed confused about traffic laws. Apologized repeatedly. Claimed she didn't understand what she'd done wrong. When I read through the citations, something caught my attention. Each officer had written nearly identical observations. Subject speaks English, but with heavy accent. Seemed genuinely confused about American traffic regulations. Heavy accent. Genuinely confused. Those 2 details told me this might not be a case of recklessness. This might be a case of someone navigating a system they didn't understand. The morning Layla Ahmadi walked into my courtroom, I noticed her immediately. Friday, 9:45 a.m. She came in alone. No attorney, no family. Just a young woman in a simple black headscarf, long, modest dress, and an expression of absolute terror. She moved carefully, like someone who wasn't sure if she was allowed to be there, like someone who'd learned to make herself small and invisible. She sat in the back row until the bailiff called her case, then walked forward with her shoulders hunched, eyes down. Everything about her body language screamed fear, not fear of punishment, fear of authority itself. Layla Ahmadi, multiple traffic violations over 6-week period. Layla stood slowly, and when she spoke, I heard it immediately, the accent Detective Morrison had mentioned. Thick, Middle Eastern. Each word carefully pronounced like she was translating in her head before speaking. Yes, Your Honor. Her voice was quiet, respectful, terrified. Miss Ahmadi, do you understand these charges? Yes, Your Honor. I am guilty. I broke the traffic laws 4 times. I am very sorry. But something in her voice told me she didn't fully understand. She knew she'd been cited. She knew she was in trouble. But the why seemed to escape her. Miss Ahmadi, do you have an attorney? No, Your Honor. I cannot afford attorney. I plead guilty to all charges. Please tell me the fine, and I will pay. She said it like she'd rehearsed it, like someone had told her, just plead guilty and pay the fine and get out of there. Miss Ahmadi, these are serious violations. You could face jail time, not just fines. Her eyes went wide with panic. Jail? Your Honor, please. I have 2 children. I cannot go to jail. I will pay any fine, any amount. Please. The fear in her voice was palpable. This wasn't someone trying to get out of consequences. This was someone genuinely terrified of what might happen. Officer Chen came forward to testify about the most recent violation, failure to yield to emergency vehicle. Your Honor, I observed the defendant driving eastbound on Westminster Avenue when an ambulance with lights and sirens approached from behind. The defendant did not pull over. She continued driving at normal speed. The ambulance had to go around her. Did you pull her over? Yes, Your Honor. When I asked why she didn't pull over for the ambulance, she seemed confused. She said she didn't know she was supposed to. She apologized repeatedly and seemed genuinely distressed that she'd done something wrong. I looked at Layla. She was staring at her hands, tears running down her face. Miss Ahmadi, is that true? You didn't know you were supposed to pull over for an emergency vehicle? Layla looked up, wiping her face quickly. Your Honor, in my country, we do not have this law. When ambulance comes, we move to side if we can, but it is not required. I did not know in America this is law. I am very sorry. I did not mean to block ambulance. What country are you from, Miss Ahmadi? And there it was. The question that changed everything. Layla's whole body tensed. Her hands started shaking. When she spoke, her voice was barely audible. Afghanistan, Your Honor. I am from Afghanistan. Afghanistan. The word hung in the courtroom like a weight. How long have you been in the United States? 4 months, Your Honor. I arrived in the United States 4 months ago. 4 months. She'd been cited 4 times in 6 weeks, which meant she'd started driving almost immediately after arriving. Miss Ahmadi, are you a refugee? Layla's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, unable to speak. Miss Ahmadi, I need you to tell me your story. How did you get here? Layla wiped her face with her sleeve. Your Honor, I do not think my story matters for traffic violations. It matters to me. Tell me how you got here. Layla took a shaky breath, and then she started talking. And what came out was one of the most harrowing stories I'd ever heard in my courtroom. Your Honor, I lived in Kabul with my husband and 2 children. My daughter is 7 years old. My son is 5. I was English teacher at girls' school. My husband was engineer. She paused, gathering strength. When Taliban took control of Afghanistan in 2021, everything changed. They closed girls' schools. They said women cannot work, cannot teach. I lost my job immediately. Several people in the courtroom were listening intently now. My husband and I, we applied for special immigrant visa because he had worked with American company. We waited and waited. For 2 years, we waited while Taliban controlled everything. Her voice was getting stronger, but also more pained. Taliban came to our house 3 times. They said I was teaching girls illegally in my home. They said this was against Sharia law. They threatened my husband. They threatened to take our children. Layla was crying now, but kept talking. Last year, my husband's name appeared on Taliban list. They said he was collaborator with Americans. They said he would be punished. We knew what punished means. It means killed. The courtroom was absolutely silent. We fled Kabul in the night, left everything, our home, our belongings, our family. We traveled to Pakistan with only what we could carry. We lived in refugee camp for 8 months. 8 months in tent with no running water, no electricity, waiting for our visa application to be processed. She wiped her face. Finally, in August, we received approval. We were resettled here in Providence through Refugee organization. They gave us small apartment. They helped my husband find job at factory. They helped enroll my children in school. And they helped you get a driver's license? Layla nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Refugee services. They said I need driver's license because in America you must drive to go anywhere. They helped me study for written test. I passed test. I got license. But, Your Honor, she looked up at me with desperate eyes. The test, it tells you rules, but it does not tell you how to drive in America. In Afghanistan, driving is very different. There are no stop signs on every corner. There are no laws about headlights. There are no rules about pulling over for ambulance. I studied the book, but when I am driving, I do not always remember all the American rules. If you're watching this and you've ever had to start over in a country where nothing makes sense, subscribe to Judge Stories YT right now, because what I do next shows that sometimes justice requires understanding that not everyone learned to drive the same way. I sat back in my chair, processing what I just heard. This wasn't a reckless driver. This wasn't someone who didn't care about laws. This was a refugee who'd fled the Taliban, lived in a camp for 8 months, and was now trying to navigate an American system that was completely foreign to her. Miss Ahmadi, let me make sure I understand. You fled Afghanistan because the Taliban threatened your family. You lived in a refugee camp for 8 months. You've been in the United States for 4 months. And in those 4 months, you've been cited 4 times for traffic violations. Yes, Your Honor, I am very sorry. I am trying to learn American driving, but I make mistakes. Miss Ahmadi, did you drive in Afghanistan? No, Your Honor. In Afghanistan, women were not allowed to drive under Taliban. Before Taliban, I rode bicycle, or my husband drove. This is first time in my life I am driving car. That stopped me cold. She'd fled a country where women couldn't drive, arrived in America, gotten her license, and was now being cited for not understanding American traffic laws, all while learning to drive for the first time in her life. Your Honor, Officer Chen spoke up. I didn't know any of this when I cited her. If I'd known she was a refugee who just learned to drive, I would have handled it differently. I looked at the other citations. 4 different officers, 4 different violations, but each one noted. Subject was cooperative, seemed confused about rules, apologized repeatedly. None of them had asked where she was from. None of them had asked about her background. They'd just seen violations and written tickets. Miss Ahmadi, why didn't you tell these officers you were a refugee? That you'd just learned to drive? Layla's voice was small. Your Honor, in Afghanistan, when police stop you, you do not argue. You do not explain. You apologize and accept punishment. If you argue with Taliban, they hurt you. So when American police stopped me, I just apologized. I was too afraid to explain. The courtroom was silent. This woman had been so conditioned by living under Taliban rule that even in America, even with police who wouldn't hurt her, she was too terrified to defend herself. Miss Ahmadi, you said you have 2 children. Who's watching them right now? My husband, Your Honor. He took day off from factory to watch children so I could come to court. He will lose pay for today, but this was important. What does your husband do at the factory? He works assembly line, Your Honor, making electronics. It is hard work, long hours. But he is grateful to have job. In Afghanistan, Taliban would have killed him. I made a decision, one that might be unconventional, but one that felt absolutely right. Miss Ahmadi, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to continue this case for 6 months. Layla looked confused. Your Honor, I do not understand. Continue means what? It means we're going to postpone your sentencing for 6 months. During that time, you're going to do something for me. Anything, Your Honor. Please, what do you need? I'm going to order you to complete a defensive driving course. But not just any course. I'm going to arrange for you to take a special course through the Rhode Island Refugee Services that's specifically designed for refugees who are learning American traffic laws. Layla's eyes widened. There is such course? There will be by next week, because I'm going to call them right now and tell them we need it. I picked up the phone and dialed Rhode Island Refugee Services. Within 10 minutes, I had Sarah Martinez, the director, on speakerphone in my courtroom. Director Martinez, I have a refugee from Afghanistan in my courtroom who's been cited 4 times for traffic violations in 6 weeks. She's been in the country 4 months. She fled the Taliban. She never drove before coming to America. And she's trying to navigate our traffic system without proper training. There was a pause. Judge Caprio, we do have a driver education program, but it's always overbooked. We have limited funding. Then we need to expand it. This woman is trying to follow our laws. She's not reckless. She's just learning a system that's completely foreign to her. And I'm guessing she's not the only refugee in this situation. You're right, Judge. We have dozens of refugees who struggle with American driving laws because they're so different from their home countries. So let's fix that. I'm ordering Miss Ahmadi to complete a comprehensive driver education course through your organization, and I'm going to follow up to make sure it happens. Can you make space for her? Yes, Judge. We'll make it work. When can she start? Next week. And Director Martinez, while we're at it, let's talk about expanding this program for other refugees. Because if Miss Ahmadi is struggling, I guarantee others are too. I hung up and looked at Layla. She was crying, but differently now. Not from fear, from relief. Miss Ahmadi, here's what's going to happen. You're going to take a 6-week driver education course that will teach you not just American traffic laws, but how to actually drive safely in American conditions. You'll learn about stop signs, about yielding to emergency vehicles, about headlight requirements, about everything you need to know. Layla nodded, wiping her tears. Yes, Your Honor, I will do this. Thank you. And after 6 months, you're going to come back to this courtroom. If you complete the course and you have no new violations in that 6-month period, I'm going to dismiss all 4 of these charges. You'll have a clean record. Layla's hand went to her mouth. Your Honor, you will dismiss? You will forgive? I'm not forgiving anything, Miss Ahmadi. You broke traffic laws. But you broke them because you didn't understand them, not because you didn't care. There's a difference. And punishing you for not understanding wouldn't make our roads safer. Teaching you will. Layla stood up suddenly. Your Honor, may I say something? Of course. In Afghanistan, under Taliban, there is no mercy, no second chance. If you break law, even law, you do not understand, you are punished. sometimes killed. When I came to America, I was so afraid of your courts. I thought American judge would be harsh, would not care about my story." She was crying hard now. "But you asked where I am from. You listened to my story. You understood that I am not bad person. I am just person trying to learn new country. This is why I wanted to come to America. This is why my husband and I risked everything to flee Taliban. Because in America, there is justice. There is mercy. There is chance to start again." The courtroom erupted in applause. Several people were crying. Even Officer Chen was wiping his eyes. Subscribe to Judge Stories YT, because what happens 6 months later proves that sometimes the most powerful thing a judge can do is give someone the tools to succeed instead of just punishing them for failing. 6 months later, Layla Ahmadi came back to my courtroom. And the transformation was remarkable. She walked in with confidence this time, head up, shoulders back. She was still wearing her headscarf, but she moved like someone who understood where she was and what was happening, like someone who belonged. "Miss Ahmadi, welcome back. Tell me what you've been doing for the past 6 months." Layla smiled a real smile. "Your Honor, I completed the driving course, all 6 weeks. I learned so much, not just about traffic laws, but about American driving culture, about why Americans drive the way they do, about safety." She pulled out a certificate. "I received this certificate last month, and Your Honor, I have had 0 traffic violations in 6 months. 0. I drive every day to take my children to school, to go to grocery store, to drive my husband to work when his shift is early, and I follow all the rules." "That's excellent, Miss Ahmadi. Tell me more about the course." "Your Honor, the teacher was Refugee from Somalia who has lived in America for 15 years. She understood what it is like to learn American driving when you come from country where rules are different. She taught us about stop signs, why they are at every corner, why Americans follow them even when no cars are coming. In Afghanistan, we only stop if car is coming." She was speaking more confidently now. Her English noticeably improved. She taught us about emergency vehicles. "In my country, ambulance just honks and pushes through traffic. Here, everyone must pull over. I understand now. I will always pull over." "Miss Ahmadi, have you helped your husband with his driving?" "Yes, Your Honor. My husband, he also took the course with me. We learned together. Now we both drive safely. And we teach our children about American traffic rules, so when they grow up, they will know." I looked at the monitoring report from Rhode Island Refugee Services. Clean record for 6 months. Completed course with perfect attendance. Volunteer teaching assistant for new refugees in the program. "Wait, you're volunteering to help other refugees?" Layla nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Your Honor. After I completed course, Director Martinez asked if I would help translate for new refugees from Afghanistan who speak Dari language. Now I help teach driving class 2 times per week. I help other Afghan women learn to drive safely in America." Her whole face lit up. "Your Honor, there are many refugee women like me. They fled Taliban. They came to America. They need to drive, but do not understand American rules. I help them. I tell them my story. I tell them about standing in your courtroom 6 months ago, terrified. And I tell them that America gives second chances, that if they work hard and learn, they can succeed." I had to take a moment, because this was why the justice system exists. Not to punish people who make mistakes, but to give them the tools to do better. "Miss Ahmadi, based on your completion of the driver education course and your clean record for 6 months, I'm dismissing all 4 charges against you. You have a clean record." Layla gasped. "Dismissed? Truly?" "Truly. Miss Ahmadi, you came to this country fleeing persecution. You learned a completely new skill driving in a completely foreign system. You made some mistakes because you didn't understand the rules. And when given the chance to learn, you not only learned, but became good enough to teach others. That's remarkable." Layla was crying now. "Your Honor, may I say something?" "Of course. 6 months ago, I stood in this courtroom and I was so afraid. I thought I would go to jail. I thought I would lose my driver license and never be able to drive my children to school. I thought my family had fled Taliban only for me to ruin everything in America. She wiped her eyes. But you asked me one question. Where are you from? And when I told you, everything changed. You did not see me as criminal. You saw me as refugee, trying to learn. You gave me a chance to prove I can follow American laws. You gave me tools to succeed. Her voice got stronger. Your Honor, in Afghanistan, I was English teacher. I taught girls to read and write. Taliban took that away from me. But here in America, I am teacher again. I teach Afghan refugees how to drive safely, how to follow American laws, how to build new life in new country. She looked directly at me. You did not just dismiss my charges, Your Honor. You gave me back my purpose. You gave me back my dignity. You showed me that America is a country where people ask, where are you from? Not to judge you, but to understand you. This is why we came here. This is why we risked everything. The courtroom was absolutely silent, except for the sound of people crying quietly. 2 years after that day, I got an invitation in the mail. It was from Rhode Island Refugee Services. They were hosting an event celebrating their expanded driver education program for refugees. I attended. The room was full of refugees from Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, and dozens of other countries, all of them learning American driving laws, all of them trying to build new lives. Director Martinez spoke first. 2 years ago, Judge Frank Caprio called me from his courtroom with a refugee who'd been cited for traffic violations. He didn't just sentence her. He asked where she was from. He listened to her story, and he challenged us to create a better program. She gestured to the crowd. Since that day, we've expanded our refugee driver education program. We've taught over 200 refugees from 15 different countries. Our graduates have a 98% safe driving record, and it's all because one judge understood that sometimes people don't need punishment, they need education. Layla Ahmadi stood up to speak. She was wearing professional clothes now, carrying herself with confidence I'd never seen in that courtroom 2 years ago. My name is Layla Ahmadi. 2 years ago, I stood in Judge Caprio's courtroom with 4 traffic violations and no hope. I was convinced my life in America was over before it really began. But Judge Caprio asked me one question that changed my life. Where are you from? She smiled. He asked because he wanted to understand me, not judge me, not punish me, understand me. And when he understood that I was a refugee who'd fled Taliban, who'd never driven before, who was trying to learn American rules, he gave me tools to succeed. Her voice filled the room. Today, I am not just safe driver. I am lead instructor for Afghan refugee driving program. I help other women from my country learn to drive safely. I translate, I teach, I give back to program that gave me second chance. She looked directly at me. Judge Caprio, you asked where I am from. I am from Afghanistan, but I am also from your courtroom. From the place where one question, one moment of curiosity instead of judgment, changed the trajectory of my life. Thank you for seeing me as human being, not just case number. The room erupted in applause. After the event, Layla introduced me to her family. Her husband, now working as assistant manager at the factory. Her daughter, now 9, reading at 5th grade level. Her son, now 7, wanting to be engineer like his father. Your Honor, my children, they are American now. They go to American school. They have American friends. They follow American laws. And when they are old enough to drive, they will already know all the rules because I teach them every day. She paused. But I also teach them about Afghanistan, about where we came from, about what we survived. Because knowing where you are from helps you appreciate where you are going. My father always told me, Frank, sometimes the most important question you can ask isn't about the crime. It's about the person, where they came from, what they've survived, what they need to move forward. Layla Ahmadi walked into my courtroom with 4 traffic violations and a story of survival that most people can't imagine. She'd fled the Taliban, lived in a refugee camp, come to America with nothing, and was trying to navigate a system completely foreign to her. I could have sentenced her, fined her, suspended her license, punished her for not understanding rules she'd never been taught properly. Instead, I asked one question. Where are you from? And that question revealed that she didn't need punishment. She needed education. She needed understanding. She needed someone to see her not as a reckless driver, but as a refugee trying to build a new life in a new country with new rules. 2 years later, she's not just following those rules, she's teaching them to others. She's taken her own struggle and transformed it into a mission to help other refugees succeed. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, sometimes the most important question you can ask someone isn't, "What did you do?" It's, "Where are you from?" Because understanding someone's journey helps you understand their actions. And sometimes people don't need harsher punishment, they need better tools. Ask the questions that reveal the whole person. Because sometimes one question, "Where are you from?" can change not just one life, but hundreds. Thanks for listening, and God bless.